right. Welcome back to Addicted to Film. Of course, this is Travis Hopson. I'm Tim Gordon. We are sitting here with a couple of amazing gentlemen who have produced an amazing film. Anthony and Joe Russo, the co-directors of Captain America: The Winter Soldier. How you guys doing today?
Great.
Good, we're doing great. Thanks for having me.
You know, Travis, did you want to start?
Look, if I'm going to start, then I'm going to start by geeking out a little bit here because I thought, seriously, I don't usually do that. You know me, I don't usually do stuff like that. But when it comes to Marvel movies,
be yourself, man. Be yourself.
I tend to do that, especially this one, which I thought was incredible.
Great.
All right, you guys did a fantastic job.
Thank you very much.
So I got to ask you a question right off the bat, though. How awesome is it to just be in like the Marvel world, making these movies with all these different talents, things like that?
It's crazy. It's a dream come true. I've been collecting comics since I was 10 years old.
Oh, so you and I have a kinship already.
Exactly. I mean, what's weird about it is one of the first books I ever got my hands on was a Captain America Falcon team-up. So to be talking to you about a Captain America Falcon movie 30 years later is pretty bizarre. But it's super exciting because we have very similar sensibility to everybody at that company, especially Kevin Feige, who runs the company. We're comic book geeks, we're film geeks, we're pop culture geeks. You can tell from our shows like Arrested Development, Community that we love pop culture. And Kevin's the same way. So I think it's like a bunch of peas in a pod. Everybody's sort of the similar mindset, and I think that's why we got along very well with them. They gave us an immense amount of creative freedom on this project. And we're all very happy with the product.
But to be able, as storytellers, to be given these characters and allowed to tell a story using these iconic characters is an incredible privilege, and we were always mindful of that and grateful for that.
Now, you guys, to me, I told you, I shared with you before we started that I really wasn't that huge of a fan of the first one. Right. But this film feels like it made a major jump to me. Mm-hmm. Now, I understand you guys talked in a recent interview about wanting to take the story and make it more modern.
Right.
Explain kind of what your vision was when you guys kind of looked at kind of an overview of this story and how you wanted to present it to audiences.
Right.
Well, there was, when I was collecting comic books, it was in the 80s, right? Frank Miller released the Dark Knight series, which really blew everybody's mind because it was the first deconstruction of a golden age or silver age superhero, right? There's a postmodern component to it where he put him in an extremely modern setting, and for the first time with modern themes, and everybody's going, oh my God, this hero actually lives in a world very similar to mine. He doesn't live in this fantasy world. Right. He talks like I do, has the same issues that I have. So we like deconstructing superheroes. We prefer that. First movie is like a Captain America film, is a love letter to the golden age origin of the character. We like deconstruction. So Ed Brubaker's run is to me the quintessential deconstruction of Captain America. And the tone and the theme were espionage. The theme has to do with trust. So for us, that's where we started. We started in a place of what do we like about the character? What do we want to see different about the character? Again, when I was a kid, I had issues with Captain America. I thought he was too much of a Boy Scout. He was a superficial character. He seemed like propaganda to me. As a kid even, 10-year-old kid. I used to imagine Steve McQueen in my head because it would give him a little bit more bite for me. Right. So those are the things that we wanted to, in our mind, correct about the character, just in his collective mythology.
But also we felt, you can see the movement of Captain America through these Marvel movies, from that first movie to this movie, in the sense that, World War II was a very black and white time. It was like America versus the Nazis. Captain America missed Watergate and Vietnam and 9/11 and all the crazy things that have happened since that have left us in this very gray world. So to sort of take this character who from a arguably more simple time and pull him into a very gray, complicated world, like that was, for us, that's just good storytelling and very challenging to cap on a character level. It's like take him as far away from that world where he started and sort of see what happens to him.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. Actually, this is a very post 9/11 sort of movie. You couldn't have made this a while back. You just simply couldn't have done it, especially with a character like Captain America. So I was going to ask, how do you see this character sort of evolving beyond this now? Because he's now recognizes that he's in a world where simply punching the bad guy is not going to solve all the world's problems like it was in World War II. Where does a character like that go from here? What do you guys think?
Hopefully, he keeps developing. I mean, what's interesting about Cap is he's a very strategic thinker. And so that's one of his abilities. It's the serum accelerated his thought process, right? So he can think quickly. That's why he's the leader of the Avengers. So for us now, we've signed on a Cap 3 and we're just breaking the story on it. It's really trying to figure out, how does he grow in the modern world? Character who acts on principle, right? It was easy to act on principle in The Greatest Generation. Nazis were bad, everybody else was good. It was a very, very clear black and white issue. Yes, now as you point out, it's all gray. So how do you act on principle? So I think that really is going to be his struggle moving forward, is trying to keep identifying who the villain is, or who where the lines are drawn, and they may keep getting more complicated for him.
You can see on a personal level, at least, and we have a long way to go. Like Joe said, we've just begun sort of thinking about the story for the next one with the writers, Marcus and McFeely. But on a personal level, his relationship with the Winter Soldier isn't resolved at the end of this movie. So there's something left there for Cap still to chase.
So I guess my question would be, I'm kind of like the lone guy who's not the comic book reader that's sitting here in this ensemble right now. Discuss what is the process, or is there a process of how you balance out these stories that they play well for people who are fans of the comic or who are comic book fans versus general audiences who just go in and we don't really know enough about the story to kind of follow it, but we want to be entertained nevertheless?
It's a very important question. I mean, look, while the fan base is extremely important and we're extremely close to that fan base, it's like these movies are seen go way beyond the fan base. So you have to do that. I mean, I think what it comes down to is just we always have loved like very balanced and well-rounded and layered storytelling and everything that we do. That's how we approach everything we've done, from Arrested Development to Community, etc. So we like stuff that like sort of hits on all pistons, that makes you laugh, cry, scares you, excites you, makes you think. We want movies to take us through all those experiences, and also we like movies that you can watch multiple times. Like we're film geeks, we love to watch stuff and rewatch stuff, and it's like to be able to get something new from a movie on a second viewing or third viewing is so exciting. So it's like that's how we approach our storytelling. We try to layer it, make it very dense, make it very well rounded, and I think that's hopefully how the movie will end up appealing to both a fan base and a general audience. Now,
you mentioned some of your previous work, Community, Arrested Development, things like that. You guys are generally known as comedy guys, generally for the most part. So this is sort of a big jump for people who know you from your other stuff. How do you kind of make that transition, and how did you make it so well? Because I do think you guys do an amazing job with the sort of the scale of this thing. And I also didn't see an overabundance of CGI effects. Like it does seem like he tried to use practical when it was
That's
possible.
per our taste, right? I like practical effects. I like good fighting in my comic book movies, and Cap is a hand-to-hand combatant. He's a human being. He's not a CGI creation like the Hulk. He's not a god like Thor flying across the sky. So we wanted to ground it as much as we could because we felt that would play to Cap's strengths as a character, and to see his abilities, you got to see the guy fight. That's what his abilities are. So we want to make sure that we had a lot of practical work in the movie. It keeps you in the film more. CGI can pull you out. Clearly, there's stuff in the movie that we couldn't do practically. And that's
those giant ships that they
we wanted to build them.
We were to build the helicarrier and just really crash it.
Price
We
tag
built
was
one,
like-
but we couldn't get off the ground, so we had to scrap it.
They always crash anyway, so it doesn't matter.
As far as how we got to a movie like this as filmmakers, we had a wonderful run in comedy that we loved, but we never really set out to be comedy directors. This is something that sort of happened. We have very eclectic tastes. We like all genres, and we like, we make TV pilots, episodes, big films, small films, commercials. We shoot everything. It's all filmmaking to us, and we just. So I think look, we've always fetishized action. We love action, and this is something that we've been wanting to do for a long time. So while we were having this great run in comedy and we couldn't kind of shift gears because things were going so well, we had years and years of like action fantasies building up in our heads. So it's like we poured it all into this movie.
I just really find it ironic with the background that you guys have that arguably, I think you've created the quintessential Marvel movie that's in this universe. I'm thinking of the original Hulk. I'm talking about everything from '08 to now.
Right.
I really, really thought you guys, as he said earlier, balanced the action and everything very well in the film. I understand that part of the inspiration, I read someplace, that you guys talked about the action sequences were like the Raid, and I think some of these other movies. Is that true?
Listen, being film geeks, we identify what it is that we like about certain movies, and there are certain movies we'll watch over and over. My Apple TV lives at quarter speed, because I'll slow down scenes and I'll study what the director is doing in a given scene. What's he doing with the sound? What's he doing with the performance? How's he selling that punch? How's he, what's the choreography? And so, we go back to our influences to identify and go, okay, all right, we're doing a car chase with Nick Fury. How do we do a great car chase? Let's go look at the French Connection.
Chase the greatest
Let's go look at To Live and Die in L.A. Let's go look at Ronin, which I think is some of the greatest car chases ever put on film. And let's be inspired by that, and let's look at the tricks that they're using and Heat. I still think that the bank heist is probably the most intense 8 minutes I've seen in a movie theater, and it was the reality of it. It was the first-person subjectivity of the camera that was over Val Kilmer's shoulder when he's shooting down the street and then spinning around into the camera. It was the reality of that. So we used that to, influence the sequence where Winter Soldier attacks them on the freeway, and then it spills out into the streets. We just love the fighting in that film because it was extremely fast, very kinetic, but trackable. You could actually see, you can understand what the characters were thinking and why they were doing what they were doing in each action beat. And to me, that's there's been a real trend of implied action over the last 10 years. We wanted to make it very specific action where you could actually follow Cap as a character, and you could see Chris Evans doing it. That's the other really important component, is to make sure your actor is on camera executing it. There's a great fight between him and Winter Soldier with the knife flip, and you're watching Chris move very quickly, and it really sells you on the fact that the character is highly trained, Cap, and that he knows how to fight.
I really enjoyed the fight in the beginning with him and Batroc.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
It's just because Batrock's one of my favorite villains.
Yeah.
Sorry. Although I still wish he had the mustache like he has in the comics.
I love
That's
when
just
you
a
have the geek moment.
That's just
Go
a
ahead.
personal
Right?
thing.
That was important for us to get somebody like George St. Pierre for that to play Batroc and to have that early fight in the movie with Cap to set the standard for intensity, because
It really did.
I mean, he's a real fighter, and those guys move amazingly fast and amazingly aggressive. So it's like to put Cap up against somebody like that for the first fight meant we just had to keep sort of making it more and more intense from there.
And I have to ask how, because you mentioned Chris Evans and how he performed in it. I got to ask how he was during this, because the action sequences are far more intense in this film, and this is a far more physical film for him than I think the first one was. So how did he kind of hold up, moving up against
He
that?
worked extremely hard.
He's
Yeah,
incredibly athletic. I'm very impressed with his athleticism. You can shoot a lot of Chris executing the fighting in the movie. You trained for months up to filming, and he did a fantastic job. I mean, you've seen the film. You see a lot of him on camera. He's doing a lot of his own
very
stunts.
hard as well.
Right.
I mean, everybody liked the actors have played these characters several times now, and they love what they've done, but they like to be challenged, and they want something new to do in each movie. And I think the fact that we were asking them, because of the style of film, that we wanted it to be more heavy on actors, more heavy on actually executing these stunts, and seeing it on camera, relying less on computer graphics. That was a challenge to them that they were excited by, and they really knew they had to train harder for it, and they did. It was great.
Now, earlier in the conversation, Travis asked you guys about how did it feel to be a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. When you're in that universe and all of you guys are doing these standalone stories, so whoever's working on Iron Man or Thor or Hulk,
Now you got
it's
Agents of
almost like
S.H.I.E.L.D.,
right. So it's
tying in
almost
everything
like
you guys are doing.
you guys you almost have to kind of safeguard the character, kind of move the story along to hand the baton off for these Avenger films. Have you guys given that thought, or do you just concentrate on just making the best film that you can make and then just kind of letting it fall where it may fall?
You focus on making the best film you can. Kevin Feige at Marvel is the nexus point for everybody, right?
Okay.
He's a brilliant guy. and he really is the one who, makes sure that everybody knows what's going on in each universe. But he's got a motto, which is, we can't look past the movie we're making now, or we're not going to make a great movie.
Right.
We have to make the best movie that we can, then we'll figure out where we go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, which is really a brilliant process, because they really want to give you the freedom to play and find whatever that movie can be.
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about some of the actors who came aboard who are not playing characters they're familiar with, like Anthony Mackie and Robert Redford, which the Redford thing is the thing that really gets me, because the movie to me feels a lot like 3 Days of the Condor, which is which he was in, of course, and he's sort of playing against type for himself. It's still very much a political thriller, which he's obviously we know he knows a lot about, but the character Alexander Pierce is not your typical role that he would play.
Right.
So talk to me a little bit about bringing in Anthony Mackie and bringing in Robert Redford and how they were on set.
Look, there's a lot of pressure when you're going to introduce a new Marvel character, because there's such high expectations, and Falcon is such a cool character, and and again, you're looking for somebody who's going to be a full and equal partner to Cap. And Cap needs a partner. Everybody from his old life is gone, so he's in the modern world. He's alone. He's isolated. That's where he starts this movie. He needs somebody. And Anthony Mackie was just, it's like he was perfect casting for Falcon. He's got that combination. I mean, he's got great physicality. You buy his toughness. He's got great charm. He helps loosen Cap up a little bit, because Cap is sort of serious and kind of guarded, and he draws that out of him.
He's always the cool guy. Like in every scene he's in, he's always the coolest one there.
That's what he's like in real life.
Well, what's great too is, Anthony Mackie and Chris Evans knew each other prior to this film, and they had a good personal relationship. They were very friendly with each other and had a nice rhythm, which we knew would be useful in terms of like developing an on-screen relationship with each other. So yeah, he ended up being amazing to work with, and also he brought such an excitement to it. Like us being new to the table, Anthony was also new to the table. So it's like every day he was on set was just like he would bring this really wonderful energy to the process that everybody really appreciated. And then Robert Redford, the guy's a legend. The second his name came up, we couldn't get couldn't get him out of our minds. He was perfect casting. I think there was a little anxiety on our part of like, once you get an idea in your head, you're just like, oh, how are we ever going to get Redford to do this part? But he agreed to meet with us.
He really responded to the script.
We went to his office. He made us lunch, and he sat us down and he said, "Hey guys, I got to be honest with you. I don't know what these movies are, but my grandkids love them." And it was that was a good opener.
The thing about Robert Redford, if you look at some of the old Captain America comics, they look like young Robert Redford.
Right.
I always used to think he would play a young Robert Redford would have played Steve Rogers 30 years ago.
Yeah.
No, which is great about the way we get to use him in the movie, right? Is that he's antithetical to Steve Rogers, but we call it the Henry Fonda effect. Remember Once Upon a Time on the West, where Henry Fonda, and audiences were shocked, and that's the fun of it. Not only do we get this sort of philosophical symmetry of Robert Redford being in a movie that owes its a really great creative debt to 3 Days of the Condor, but we get to play him against type.
Now Marvel at this point, and Travis, it's not a secret. It's a secret to you guys. I'm a huge DC fan. I didn't grow up as a huge Marvel guy, but I have grown to really respect and love what you guys are doing.
Point of contention.
Yes, big time. What do you think about the last 10, maybe 15 years of these films and how they've evolved to become like these, not only these huge tent poles, but like these major things that fanboys, I like to use that phrase, fanboys really look forward to these films?
Yeah, well, I think, growing up, right, the thing about comics is that they're limited, right? The frames are limited. You have to fill in what's in between the frames with your imagination. I think that's why kids like comics, right? Because it's basically a snapshot of every, 30 seconds or a minute of what's going on in the frame. And then to get to a point now where your imagination can be realized on a very realistic level, where the CGI is good enough that we can see the Hulk and not watch it the whole time and go, God, he just looks like a giant piece of CGI. I thought in the Avengers they really cracked him, and that was part of the success of that movie. Was the first time I saw the Hulk, and I went, he's got emotions. He looks like the Hulk in my head, that I imagined as a kid. So I think that there's that level of excitement, which is my imagination is now being realized on screen, and it's a collective imagination. And I think heroes they're like our Greek gods. They represent things that we either aspire to, or they're escapist, or the best ones are the flawed ones. I think they're the most compelling. And it's flaws in ourselves that we see that the hero overcomes to do, execute a greater good. They're inspiring.
Yeah, like Greek gods, it's like the best superheroes always have sort of a really striking point of tragedy in their backstories, and that was one thing we loved about this movie, is the idea that Cap is now finds himself in the modern world, having lost everybody he's ever known, and it's just like the profound isolation.
It's the saddest Rip Van Winkle story ever, right?
Yeah.
There's nobody left.
Right.
And that one person who's left is 96 and losing her memory.
Right. All right. So, comic book guys, I have to ask, what characters would you like to see? No, seriously. And what characters would you like if you were to move on past Captain America 3? What characters would you like to personally see in a Marvel movie that you like to do?
I think, I'm lucky because the character I want to see is Doctor Strange, and
you're probably gonna get that.
That's teed up, I think. So, but no, I would love to see that because I think that world is so unique. I'm interested in seeing these things zig and zag moving forward. It's like the Western, right? If the genre gets too saturated with similar toned and themed movies, it's gonna peter out. So that's why I want to see characters that are gonna stretch it. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the Spider-Man stuff too, like how Spawn gets represented, and they talking about making a Spawn movie. I'll be interested to see how they pull that off.
Yeah. So you guys keep an eye on all that other stuff too. You keep an eye on what they're doing with Spider-Man and the X-Men and things like that
You
too.
do only just because it informs your like again, as a pop culture junkie, you got to absorb everything, and then you reflect that back out through what you're doing, and it helps maybe make choices, right?
As a fan, and you hope that one day you'll get to see them all together.
Civil War would be like the greatest storyline ever, but there's no way we would ever get. I mean, I grew. Secret Wars was one of the first books I ever bought too. If you
excuse me, you guys are speaking. What language are you talking right now?
Because, right. But it's because we're so familiar with the movie business and how it works. It's we sort of understand how difficult it is for these studios to sort of cooperate with one another and share these properties.
That way.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a few years ago, back around this time of the Raimi film. There was that scene where Hugh Jackman walked across in the Spider-Man movie and it got cut or something like that. But you had that sort of it could happen. He was Wolverine. Everybody knew he was Wolverine.
Right.
They didn't call him Wolverine, but you could have that sort of cooperation.
Yeah.
And now it's different. It's about money.
If it wasn't about so much money, you probably would get cooperation.
Yeah. Well, the second they start having trouble making money, that's when you'll see the cooperation.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Now, would you guys like to do because you do have the comedy background? I know you guys have kind of you like doing the action thing too, but there are a lot of comedic Marvel characters out there, like a Deadpool, or there are a lot of comedic Marvel characters out there. Oh God, jeez. So would you be interested in doing something like that too, or are you
Deadpool's a great character. I mean, and that's actually there's an excellent script that exists over at Fox for that character.
Right.
I know it's taken a little while to jumpstart that movie, which I'm shocked because the script is actually really good, really reflective of the character. Yeah, he's a badass, and it is a tough tone, but that's what makes it exciting, right? Is it's a high wire act to balance that tone. I'd love to see that. I think I don't know. You could throw almost any comic book character at us, and we'd be excited.
Well, they telling us to wrap it up.
Yeah.
I want to thank both of you guys for sitting down. Travis could talk to you all day because he's trying to jump
I'm trying
in.
to get in more.
But again, the film of course opens tomorrow, which will be April the 4th. I think it's an amazing film. You can tell from Travis's eyes haven't twinkled as much in an interview in a minute. But I want to thank you guys for your time and continued success. Can't wait to see what you guys are going to do with part 3.
Thank
We
you. It was
really
a real
appreciate you
pleasure,
guys
this
sitting down
conversation.
with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and we're going to take a break right now, and we'll be back more of Addicted to Film.